What's up, everybody? Still Straight Fire running here and coming back today with a recap video of day one of the U.S. track and field trials. So for today's video, I'll be going a little bit into the first rounds of the 800, 1500, and 3000 meter steeplechase before capping off the video with the kind of my reactions to the premier events of the night, which were both the men's and women's 10,000 meter finals. And you'll see at the end of this video, those teams are fully decided. So a lot of interesting stuff going down there. All right, so starting things off with the men's 800, really nothing out of the ordinary there. We saw all the favorites take either first or second in their heat. We saw Hoppel with the fastest overall time. Brandon Miller won his heat ahead of Abraham Alvarado. We saw Isaiah Jewett also qualify through in that heat. Josh Hoey took his heat win, and obviously we saw Donovan Brazier and Craig Engels go 1-2. That was really the only surprising thing of the night for me, was to see Engels get second place in that heat. The other thing that kind of stuck out to me about this was Tenoda Matata not starting. Very interesting. I thought that after he scratched NCAAs, he was going to come back with a vengeance and really do something special in the 800, but unfortunately, I guess that injury was prolonged longer than he was hoping. So yeah, nothing too much in the 800, but interesting to see Engels back up there in second and no Matata. Moving on to the women's 800, we saw Sage Hurta-Klecker and Athing Mu come away with the top two times. Both won their respective heats. Moving on to the other heats, we saw Nia Atkins win her heat, and also Addison Wiley win her heat, the first heat overall. But yeah, just nothing surprising there. All three of those four athletes had the world standard, but great to see Athing Mu back up there, finally performing what looks like to be her old self. She took that out. She was third place through the first lap and closed hard. So yeah, great to see Athing Mu out there, and these finals should shape up to be something special. All right, so for the 1500s, once again, nothing special in the first round. We saw McKay, Nikki Hiltz, and Sinclair Johnson take first in the three heats. Really, the only thing of note was Margaret Appleton going second place overall, and obviously second place in her heat as well, to get the qualifying spot to the finals. Moving on to the men, once again, nothing too surprising. It was great to see Eric Holt up there, finishing second behind Cole Hawker in his heat. Hawker took the fastest time overall, followed by Nagoose. It was also interesting to see Ethan Strand take his heat over Kessler, but nothing too surprising there. Wouldn't have predicted that, but not shocked to see it come out. One thing of note in the 1500 heats was Liam Murphy, NCAA record holder in 333, did not have a best race. He didn't perform to the best of his abilities at nationals either, but was expecting to see him kind of bounce back a lot stronger in the trials, but unfortunately did not see that yesterday. Also, interesting to note about Craig Engels. Engels came away with fifth in his heat. Engels ran 3:35 for the 1500, just 3 hours after running 1:48 to come second in his heat of the 800. So it makes you think, should Engels have run the 800? Now, obviously, he's qualified through to the semis. He got second. That was great to see him and Brazier go 1-2, the teammates tearing it up in that heat. But I'm not convinced that was the best decision for Engels. Engels is a 1500 meter runner, period. He's got speed, but 148 speed is not going to cut it, especially with the depth of the US 800 meter runners right now. 148 is a good close for a 1500 meter runner, but it is not a solid 800 meter time, especially when you have 3-4 of the best 800 meter runners in the world lining up against you just at the US trials. So kind of disappointed to see Engels not qualify through in the 1500. I feel like if he had focused all of his energy into that, maybe he could have gotten that qualifying time and done something pretty impressive in the finals. But I guess we'll see what he does in the semis of the 800, and maybe he'll make me eat my words and do something really special in that. So that would be great to see. All right, so next up we had the women's 3,000 meter steeplechase, and this was an exciting race for just showing the depth of the women's steeplechase right now. So in Heat 1, we had the top 7 finishers separated by only 3 seconds. That was crazy bunched up. You know, it shows depth. There's a big drop off after those first 7 runners, so pretty much everyone knew who was going to qualify through to the finals. But then Heat 2, we saw the same thing. It went a little bit faster. Heat 1 was taken in 9:37, whereas Heat 2 was taken in 9:30. But once again, we saw the top 7 finishers within 3 seconds of each other, and then there's a big gap off between 7th and 8th place. So interesting to see the depth there in both heats. We saw Angelina Napoleon, the NC State runner, take the win in Heat 2, and Lexi Halliday Lowry, the BYU runner, take the win in Heat 1. So interesting to see 2 NCAA athletes take the win in their heats, and excited to see how all of these athletes shape up in the finals. All right, so once again, nothing too surprising in the men's 3,000 meter steeplechase. We saw Kenneth Rooks take his heat. Obviously, I mean, this man is just undisputedly the best steeplechaser in the country right now. He's been undefeated in U.S.-only races for, I think, probably 2 years now. And so, yeah, he is about as close to unbeatable as you can get in the United States right now, in my opinion. We saw Isaac Updike come second place in his heat. Matthew Wilkinson, another Olympian, take first in his heat. James Corrigan snuck through with the qualifier. But yeah, it was very bunched up, just like the women, but no one just narrowly missing out, and all the heavy hitters going through to the finals. All right, guys, so what I'm most excited to talk about today, the 10,000 meter finals. Both the men and women showed just incredible races, and gave so much optimism for how the Americans will do at the World Championships. Starting things off with the women, we saw Elise Cranny pretty much take it from the gun, lead almost the entire thing. Kira D'Amato, the marathoner, had an insane race, so that was great to see her up there, just sitting on Cranny for most of the start of the race. We saw things break up, kind of a pack of 4, Enfield, Cranny, Taylor Rowe, and Wayne Kaladi. And Kaladi took the lead going into the final lap, but was passed by Enfield, Cranny, and Rowe. This is where things got pretty crazy. Emily Enfield, who has been competing in the U.S. trials since 2009. That is crazy to think about. Her first trials was 2009. She dropped a 65-second lap to outkick Elise Cranny. Obviously, we know Elise Cranny has incredible speed, so outkicking that athlete for anyone is insane. But Emily Enfield, for how long she's been in the sport, that was really, really surprising to see. And Wayne Kaladi not making that team. She dropped a 68-second last lap. So still very impressive close, but could not hang with those 3. Maybe training for half marathon. Obviously, she's the American record holder in that event. Maybe that took some of the speed out of her legs that she would have needed to keep up with those three athletes. But with that being said, very confident with our women's team going into Japan in September. Emily Enfield, Elise Cranny, and Taylor Rowe.